Well, hey there, everyone. So, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about what Youngstown Steel Heritage is, what our goals are going forward as an organization. I'm sitting here today in the McDonald Steel 14 mill, as you can see behind me here, the rolling mill stands, with the exception of the two that we have taken out and moved over to our museum. So, when we got started with this entire project, and I guess you could say we got started back in like 1992 when I was 18 years old and just graduated from high school with a project to try to preserve the Jeannette blast furnace here in Youngstown. That of course was unsuccessful, but through it we were able to save all the engineering drawings from Briar Hill, the Briar Hill Works Youngstown Sheet and Tube, and because of that, we found out of the existence of the Todd engine and was able to save the Todd engine. And having done that, the engine, the steam engine, was kind of the nucleus of what I wanted to build as a steel industry museum. And the reason I wanted to do this mainly came from kind of not being all that enthused about what $2 million in the state of Ohio could accomplish downtown with their Center for Industry and Labor. Wasn't any steel mill equipment in there. No metal in the building. You know, it's like it's a steel museum that there's hardly any steel in it. And, you know, I had been in various mill buildings such as this over the years, and it just fascinates me. The complexity and then just everything, the machinery and all that in there. And I wanted to try to do something that was going to kind of, mimic what we have, what you see in a steel mill. Of course, I couldn't save an entire steel mill, but I could save some equipment from it. So we obtained a Todd engine, got it moved, found the property, bought the property, got the engine moved onto the property, put it together, put the building up. Then in 2014 was the 100th anniversary of the Todd, so we did a cosmetic restoration on it, and that's the gray paint you see on it now. We got that all done. And then after that was done, towards the end of 2014 is when we found the 58. And so starting in 2015 on up through 2019, most of my efforts was put towards restoring that locomotive. And then in 2020 and 2021 or so, a lot of the efforts was put towards building the railroad. And now that we have 4 locomotives, we have one that runs, we have another one that we're working on, we've got 1,500 feet of track or so. We have a pretty good organization of people that come out and run the locomotive, and we do the steam locomotive experiences and the like, and that's doing great. So I decided, well, it was time to start putting my efforts back towards getting the Todd engine finished to get it done while I'm still physically able to do it. So that's what we started on, kind of late last year and into this year, putting the effort into getting the foundation, 120 yards of concrete have to go underneath the Todd engine to form the foundation. So that's great. And then early this year, I started coming over here to McDonald, even back when it was still owned by the company, invited by one of the employees to come over and look around and take pictures and the like. So I did, and then when Applied Partners acquired the facility to demolish it, I made contact with Michael, the owner of the corporation, and pitched to him my idea for what we'd like to save out of here for the museum. So we agreed upon a price, and was basically allowed to purchase whatever out of here that I want to purchase. So it's going on 4 months now or so that I've been pulling stuff out of here. I figure I've got 75 tons maybe of of machinery out of this plant. So we're starting to wind things down now, because I have pretty much out everything I wanted, and they're going to start, in the demolition a little bit heavier here fairly soon. And besides, I've spent way too much time away from working on the museum while I'm over here acquiring things for it. Let's start putting that stuff in and using it. So that brings me to, well, what is the purpose of Youngstown Steel Heritage? What is it that we're trying to do? So first off, when I started the organization, the purpose was to basically preserve the Todd engine and find a place for it. So the original plan was just a building having the engine in it, and that was it. When the railroad idea came along, then we had the opportunity to, expand what we could do, because that steam engine, all well and good, nice big flywheel and all that, pretty impressive. But you're not going to get a lot of people to drive across town to come and see a big steam engine like that. You will get them to come out and see a steam locomotive. If we have a locomotive that we can run, we have a railroad we can run, now we get a little bit more interest. And with that additional interest also comes interest in everything else we're doing. So, but we got the railroad now, so now we're moving back into working on the steel industry side of things. When I started coming over here, I really didn't have the idea that we'd be saving rolling mill parts and all that. Initially, it was just get in here and take a bunch of pictures and maybe save a few small artifacts. But later on, it became clear to me that, no, we can basically, whatever we could afford, we could get out of this place. And that opened up the possibility of, well, let's save a rolling mill stand. Well, heck, let's save the whole thing. Let's take the whole thing. If we have a rolling mill steam engine, let's get enough stuff so that we can hook that rolling mill steam engine up to one of these mill stands and actually make everything work. So now, instead of just a mill stand, it was 2 mill stands, a pinion stand, 2 sets of drive shafts, and because of of our space limitations, I couldn't just come off the end of the crankshaft and go straight with the mill stand and all that. We had to come out and make that 90-degree turn and run everything, parallel to the building. So now we needed a bevel gearbox. So fortunately over here, we had number 7 and number 6 stands, the pinions, drive shaft, bevel gearbox, drive shaft. So that entire end of the mill was perfect. I just pick it up, take it over to our place, and put it in. Take those drive shafts and shorten them down a little bit, but other than that, it's recreating what was right here. Well, now that we're going to have all that, well, naturally, we're going to make the engine run somehow. Ideally on steam. It's our, it's a cross compound of 34-inch high pressure, 68-inch low pressure. Well, you don't need the low pressure side. So turn into a single cylinder engine, 34-inch diameter, but our boilers on the locomotives are 39-inch in diameter, so our cylinder is almost as big as a boiler. So there's a problem with steam flow and steam capacity and all that. Well, why don't we cheat a little bit? Why don't we do like the mainline railroads do when they have the steam locomotive out on the main line, and that diesel's tucked in back there. They have that MU box there in a cab. Let's put an electric motor on the engine and drive for the mill so that we can run with steam but also have an electric assist. You don't need nearly as much steam that way. So now this brings me to, now we got to find a couple of mill motors and design all of that to build basically a 100 horsepower drive that can spin the engine and the rolling mill. And actually we could probably run everything with just the 2 motors without the steam at all. And then have the steam to supplement the motors, and also to actually make things somewhat steam powered. So that's kind of the plan right now. Um, then came the idea that, well, if we're going to do that and we're going to have a rolling mill, why don't we see if we can actually roll steel with it? Not big pieces like they were doing here, but real small stuff. We could do real small stuff. That doesn't take a lot of horsepower to do. And if we do short lengths, it'd be something within the capacity of the mill. So then that started with, well, if you're going to do that, you have to make rolls. So you need a roll lathe. So we had to go over to the machine shop and get a roll lathe out. Well, then you're going to need to know how to do this. So then we started looking in the roll design office and saving documents out of there, and then learning the process. And then basically everything from the initial product inquiry on down to the finished product, we were saving everything in this process, every step of the way, so that at some point we can take all of this and find a shape that we want to make, machine a couple of rolls, install them in the mill, and actually make those products. So that's basically what we're trying to do now, and turn the entire facility there of Youngstown Steel Heritage into a functioning steam-driven rolling mill that would have been very common to see in this area back in the 1870s and 1880s. There probably was a dozen of them around here that could do small bars and shapes. And so over the years, what we are has kept changing as opportunities have presented themselves. Initially, it was just to save the steam engine, then it was to build a narrow gauge railroad, and now a steam-driven rolling mill served by a narrow gauge railroad, with the ability to actually, make some sort of steel shapes. And that's the other thing, is that, okay, if we have the ability to do that, and we don't want to really do a lot of tonnage of something, but in the preservation world, there has to be certain rolled steel shapes used in restorations that are unobtainable anymore. Maybe it's a chair rail or something for a passenger car, or something small enough that we could do that needs limited quantities of. I think that would be perfect for us. There was an idea that somebody was inquiring about making certain size of rail, like that Buddy L made like 7/8 inch high steel rail years ago. That's pretty hard to find. Hey, maybe we could make something like that. I don't know. But the idea is, while I'm here, to get enough stuff so that when we have the foundation in, when we have the machinery installed, we have the side bay added on, can we do something productive with this rolling mill? So that's kind of where I'm at with the whole Youngstown Steel Heritage project right now, is trying to turn all of this into a functioning steam-driven rolling mill that, well, like nobody else is doing this at all. I mean, steel industry preservation isn't all that popular in the country to begin with, and there's only a few sites doing it, but nobody is actually taking steel-making machinery and trying to do something with it like we are, aside from, blacksmith forges and stuff like that. So we're doing something that nobody else is, which I think is very exciting. But it all comes to having access to this place here. Without having access to McDonald to obtain the parts and pieces and everything that we need, there was no way we'd actually be able to do this at all. So, very grateful to everybody that allowed us to come in here and to try to preserve what we could out of here. And now we're going to take all of that stuff and we're going to turn it into a functioning rolling mill again. It'll be, one stand, McDonald's last stand, so to speak, but it's going to function, and we're going to make stuff with it. And we're going to carry on the tradition of rolling steel in Youngstown. That's what we're going to do. So, that's what Youngstown Steel Heritage is about. at this point in time in 2024, and I hope that by this time in 2025 we have enough of that machinery installed that we can actually have the rolls turning with the Todd engine powering it. So, all right, well, that's all I have to talk about right now. I just wanted to explain what it is that we're doing with this organization and why I've been spending so much time over here. All right, everyone, take care.